And it always takes a couple. I think it's like a 15-second delay.
It says it's now streaming on YouTube.
Yeah. I just have to make sure that my YouTube stream is muted so I don't get the feedback. Good. Okay. So I think we are live, and I am going to go ahead and welcome everybody to this evening's presentation. We're glad you're here with us. My name is Judy Kitt. I'm the president of the Foundation for Mind-Being Research, a nonprofit, all-volunteer run organization that's been around for 42 years, exploring the questions around the science and consciousness and spirituality. Our website is fmbr.org. And you can find many of our past talks on our YouTube channel, which is called FMBR TV. And if you subscribe on YouTube, you will get notified when we go live, so you won't miss anything. And if you're joining on YouTube and you have a question, just go ahead and type it in the chat. We have people monitoring the chat, and they'll let me know what the questions are. And if you're on Zoom and you have a question, just go ahead and put it in the chat as well. If you want to ask a question, just kind of raise your hand and let me know, and I can unmute you. So we're very happy to welcome back Dr. Kathleen Riley, who is a pianist, a Yamaha artist in education, performer, researcher, lecturer, teacher, and writer, with a mission to help performing artists connect more deeply with their purpose and their heart's intelligence, voicing it through their creativity. Kathleen received 3 degrees in piano performance. She performed for many years as a soloist and chamber musician. Postdoctoral studies in neurophysiology, psychology, and biofeedback allowed her to teach people how to shift into coherence and align with purpose and clarity to their vision. In addition, Kathleen hosted 3 seasons of a show called Sounds of Coherence on Awake TV network. She has convened sessions for Ubiquity University, Humanity Rising Global Solutions Summit on the transformative effects of music and the arts on coherence and consciousness. And she's presenting new webcasts and workshops on harmonic coherence, tuning the instrument of the self, part of which she's going to talk to us about this evening. Kathleen is also a dear friend, that one of many whom I met in the ethers, during these last 2 years, and I've actually never met in person. But Kathleen, welcome. It's so good to see you again, and thank you for joining us.
Oh, this is a delight. It's just great to be here with everyone. So thank you so much for inviting me again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, you and I first became acquainted because you contacted me because of HeartMath.
I did. Yeah.
So, that's kind of an interesting thing for just to share with everyone, that a lot of the tools we will be talking about this evening, come from my having 3 certifications with the Institute of HeartMath, and as well as just my own other studies I've done. And I'm currently taking a year-long course with Dr. Sue Morter. And there's a lot of pieces, and I've interviewed her for my book, along with Roland McCready from HeartMath and many others. But there are just pieces that are coming in. And then I'm very excited to, as I was pulling this together for us this evening, I have just come back from San Francisco, where I was doing a special workshop for the students at the Conservatory of Music. And so when we talk about the idea of tuning our soulful self, there are other pieces that I will bring in through the language of music and have us thinking about in terms of our bodies and coherence. Okay.
Yeah, because it's all about vibration and frequency, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Really wonderful. Okay. So you're sharing your screen?
I'm going to share screen now. Yes, I just didn't know if there was anything else. Okay, I am ready to share.
Okay.
So, let me find where I am. Okay, great. So I just love this image, of the tuning fork and it going out, really tuning frequencies of the whole spheres of everything. And when we consider where all of these energetic domains lie. Well, let's think about that. The energetic domains of the self. Now, I know I've talked with some of the ladies in our FMBR women's group about this, who joined me for the intention groups we had for 8 weeks. And of course, we have our physical domain. We're going to spend a lot of time actually talking about that one, along with the mental and the emotional. And of course, we know that there is a spiritual domain. And we mustn't forget and realize that these are very powerful ones that affect us on all levels all the time. The subconscious, as Dr. Bruce Lipton says, that subconscious is like 85% of the brain. So it's got a lot of pull on what happens during our day-to-day living. Our karmic domains, as well as our ancestral. So all of our vibrational strings are in need of tuning. Think about those. Different domains all have strings. Some of them have many. What's tuning got to do with this? It's key. It is truly the bottom line of harmony versus dissonance and cacophony. Think about the strings within the ancestral and karmic domains. My ancestral field has thousands of strings, right? Strings of every individual within that ancestry. So when we realize how much is vibrationally affecting us, it's pretty powerful, it's pretty amazing. So we talk about the mind-body connection. It's commonly talked about. But I have a question for you all this evening. Where does stress start for you? Where does stress start? Where does it begin? Looking at those two words up there, the mind and the body. Because regardless of the starting point, anxiety and stress show up simultaneously in both the physical and mental emotional fields. I'll give you an example. You have something that you're a little worried about and you get an uh-oh up here. Notice that there's a spot of your body, we'll talk more about it later, where you also feel something. You may catch your breath, something may tighten, your gut might tighten. There is a reaction. Vice versa, if I do something, maybe I stumble, I kind of sprain my ankle or twist it, or as a pianist, musician, I'm practicing passage work one day, and then at the end of that practice, my forearm feels a little bit sore. There's an immediate accompanying uh-oh up here. The uh-oh might be, oh, I hope I'm okay, right? So we're now going to look through some data at this, and I'm going to have introduced the prime drivers of my work with biofeedback. And really, what is it we're looking at? So what is biofeedback, everyone? Type in if you have an answer for, a simple answer for what it is. Think about it. It's basically a window inside the body. The window inside. And using sensors, we can see the activity of what is measured, represented on the screens by the lines. Right here, we're seeing an electrocardiogram reading of a heart rate, right? So we do measure heart rate variability. The HRV is what is the little acronym for that, and it's measuring our heart rate. We know that heart rate is supposed to not be steady like a metronome, but the way we look at those signals, which we'll see in a few other slides, tell us how our bodies are reacting and responding. The other piece I use is called surface electromyography. or SEMG for short. And this is measuring our muscle activity. Okay, I'm showing this on the next slide. And when we look at this muscle activity, I will first of all describe what you're seeing on the screen. You see a left side of the body, no, left side of the screen rather, than lines, and right side, there's a dark blue line at the bottom across both. There is like a dark red of lines that are moving up and down, a little staticky at the top. This is a pianist whom I hooked up, and I was measuring. The blue line is on the upper shoulder, the trapezius muscle. And the red line was on the forearm, one of the extensor muscles here on both sides. And when it's moving up like that, the pianist was playing 5 notes up and down. At the end of that cycle, and there were 6 of them, they were coming and just kind of stopping. Now, what's really good about this graph is that every time that 5-note passage stopped, the line did not stay way up. Now, perhaps it could have been more optimal in certain places here, but this is something I like to see because nothing is overfiring. And a muscle, just as everything else in our body, needs time to breathe and take a breath. So those relaxation points, or those dips in muscle firing, allow it to take a breath. The shoulder line is not really doing much, which I'm happy about because a lot of people use the upper body. Think about it when you do certain tasks. Do you want to hunch and raise your shoulders? Okay, that often happens. So our first step we're going to think about is physical tuning and getting aligned. I just had a fun day at my workshop for the students with them doing this whole point. So you'll all begin to notice this as I lead you through a little sitting exercise. And I'd like you to sit with your feet firmly planted on the ground, imagining tree roots growing through those, so you're rooted. The other place I would like you to feel the same kind of roots are in the sit bones on the bottom of the butt. And in order to feel really rooted, it's best if our body weight is on top, or we are sitting on top of those bones. If we are relaxing, kind of slouched back in our chairs, the whole body weight is behind that sit bone. So ask yourself, what is your lower back and your shoulders trying to do at that moment? It's actually trying to keep you straight so you don't fall backwards. So there is an energetic communication going on in your muscles, okay? And alignment has everything to do with it. So now, looking at the bottom, you'll see from those sit bones, I drew a triangle up to your navel. So now imagine that triangle. And imagine this triangle is your foundation, okay? That's your cement foundation. So really feeling the alignment, sit bones and navel, right? Pull it in, hold it, breathe into this area. And now imagine a straight line coming up and arriving right at the sternum, the bony area right in front of your chest, near where the heart is and the lungs, right? Now we imagine going out from this with the reverse triangle to the shoulders. And the shoulders are your third balance point, okay? So we want the shoulders to, once I raise up the sternum, so here, right here on my chest, I feel there's an imaginary thread coming and just raising my body up slightly. My shoulders go back, they're not hunched over, and I'm aligned. Now there's a fourth really special alignment place. Anyone gonna guess? Type it in the chat if you think you might know where I'm going with this one. It's your earlobes. I want your earlobes to be aligned over the shoulders. That ways it means pulls your head into a balanced position. You know, our heads weigh 10 pounds or so. That's like a bowling ball. So if we're like this, okay, feel your body. What's your shoulders, your back? They're trying to again, pull you back. It's no wonder we get so much neck and shoulder tightness when we're out of alignment. What fires together gets wired together. Yes, indeed. This is called Hebbs Law. It's not a joke. And they get fired together, wired together, both physically and mentally, just what we're talking about. Notice that those thoughts of worry and anxiety immediately accompanied by that tightening or bracing somewhere in the body. So I'm going to have you all tune in your bodies right now for me and ask yourself, where is your Achilles heel? The tension just likes to go and settle in. Okay. For me, often it's in the neck area, the shoulders, but also as a pianist, I'll give an example here. I'm playing this piece and I've got this really big octave passage coming up. And if I'm worried and anxious in any way about that passage, I am going to get a emergency brake lock in either my elbow, my wrist, usually they're both together, even my shoulder, and my arm becomes more rigid. That inhibits the flow of the movement. It affects the sound, and it throws that particular string or two or three way out of tune. Okay, because now I've taken myself out of an ability to listen, really listening into a piece of music I'm playing so that I hear what I'm creating, and I'm more like, oh my gosh, I hope I get through this. So where am I listening? I'm listening to my brain chatter. That's incoherence. Okay? We want to be coherent here. So this bracing, it most often does inhibit your proper muscle use and tension relaxation cycles that are necessary. These then become compensatory patterns. Okay. One-way signals from that brain when something is braced or not able to work functionally. It's a one-way signal. Notice that, remember it. It sends other muscles to go in and help out. For instance, if I am in that place where I sprained my ankle and I go to a PT and an OT and I get rehab, and that muscle itself is actually still, it's healed, it's functional, but the brain didn't come in and go to the others, hey, thanks guys, you can go back to doing what you were doing. There is no reverse signal without this window inside and neuromuscular re-education. Some people can do it, it's lucky, but most of us, this becomes our new baseline or the new norm. Okay, and again, this is causing some of your physical strings of self orchestra to go out of tune. Now we're going to think about tuning your mental and emotional, I call it the come from. The come from. As my dear mother often said, it's not the what, it's the how of what you're saying and the intent behind it. She would say it's not the what, it's the how many times when I was a cranky little girl about something. And that became a lesson later in my life about learning how to modulate the tone. Okay. The modulation of the tone is literally allowing myself to take those breaths and stay in coherence. So are you looking from the seat of your higher self? Taking those breaths, pausing, taking a moment to think clearly in a place of neutrality? Or are you looking from the seat of the ego's personality? We need our egos. They're not completely bad, but they do become a little bossy at times in ways they want to validate or have us perform in a certain way. And at the end of the day, our strings are pretty out of tune and we've drained our batteries. This is not building resiliency. But if we simply share from the heart and soul, that's the tuning instantly of everything that was out of alignment. For the soul has a harmonizing effect on the entire field of you. You know, some of those things that come in through our ego, the need to validate or to do something in a certain way, some of those might belong to the other strings of the orchestra that are in the ancestral realm, or it's not necessarily always present right within that first part of you, but energetically it's vibrating within you. So further results of not tuning the string is that we have an inability to deliver healing frequencies to ourselves and others, because the come from is one of a fractured, split, duplicitous energy. And that is received by others as well as within our own cells. And our effectiveness is compromised. So let's talk about these higher vibrations that get us into a certain vibrational frequency. We know that joy emits this kind of frequency, and the world around us responds in kind. Through quantum science, we know that what happens is when we are experiencing joy, we emit this frequency. The photon coherence that it generates in that moment generates a reality that we get to walk through, and it is a vibrational match to our joy. As we move into the energetic heart, we share and align with intention. Now we're really in the energetic domain. You change something when you're really at the vibration of the line. This is where it comes from. And it can be no other way. Right? So we are in that intention, the energetic domain. So our emotions affect our physiology way more than our thoughts, although thoughts are pretty powerful too. Thoughts and emotions kind of go hand in hand. But sometimes the emotion is just instantly visceral. Emotions are the primary drivers of the activity in our major body systems. They also determine our level of engagement in life's events, what motivates us, and what we care about. So on Google, the most searched term during the year's period of 2016, I can only imagine it's 25 times more, 25,000 times more now, was how to reduce stress. So since those times, the Institute of HeartMath, this has been one of the primary focuses of all of their work and research and teachings, is for stress reduction and creating and maintaining resilience. So we're going to look, before we go more into HeartMath, through another window, through the looking glass and the sounds of music. Dr. John Diamond, many of you know of his work with behavioral kinesiology. And we know he demonstrated that not only could certain substances make the person's muscle strong or weak, but so could music. And he explored how a composition itself, the acoustics of the room, instruments, and the intention of the performer all affect the life energy of the music performance and its effects on health. A very interesting finding here was that even when he tested a piece of music that was known, proven to create coherence, if the attitudes and stress level of the performer or performers caused muscle tension for them and affected the performance and created stress in the audience members, right? So what happened was that mind-body piece, here we are, that stress caused that muscle tightness. It affected the performance, the sound obviously coming through, and the audience members' stress response. This is powerful. For we too emanate sound frequencies through our thoughts, attitudes, and emotions. So what effect are we having on others and the field? Jonathan Goldman writes about this work in his book, Healing Sounds, and he experienced it firsthand with having gone to hear the same symphony orchestra perform the same piece of music conducted by two different conductors. This was the inspiration for my exploratory study with HeartMath in 2018 on music with string quartet. And the results he found, because there was testing done on Jonathan afterwards, kinesiology, was that with conductor number 1, his response, he had strong muscle response, deep respiratory breathing, low resting heart rate. Performance number 2 with the different conductor, he had weakened muscle response, elevated heart rate, and shallow respiratory breathing. Now, I was really curious and alarmed because as I read this, I said, but my golly, what about all the musicians under the baton of this conductor? But imagine that this is the effect we can have on everything, okay? And it is absolutely true. The same thing in verbal communication. As we up-level and become more coherent, our energetic blueprint changes. It can be heard through the tone of our voice. It's not the what you're saying, it's the how. And at the same time, simultaneously, it is felt in the musculature of the body. Begin to notice this. And it is activated from the heart. As we clear the incoherence and the depleting attitudes and emotions, we allow our higher soul self to come forth. Our harmonic resonance is energetically heard and felt by others as well as the field. So let's have a look at this definition of coherence through the Institute of HeartMath. And they define it as an optimal state in which the heart, mind, and emotions are aligned and in sync. Okay, let's take those three: your heart, your mind, your emotions. Physiologically, the immune, hormonal, and nervous systems function in a state of energetic coordination. So my question this evening, please type in, of the three, heart, mind, emotion, which is the driver? Which is the driver of that train? What's going to create the coherence? Where does it start? We talk about the heart-brain communication and connection. And the heart has its own complex nervous system, the heart brain, sending far more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. And the patterns in the neural signals from the heart especially affect the brain centers involved in perception, emotional experience, and self-regulation. This is my favorite slide coming up of how emotions affect heart rhythms. And notice the graph on the left-hand side. The word above it, it's incoherence. Notice the attitudes, emotions underneath that are creating this erratic heart pattern. Frustration, irritation, impatience, worry, judgment. There's a lot of other ones that go along in there, right? I'm sure you can add a few in right now. And look at the difference that does occur actually pretty instantly when we're training people with this to do it. When we shift to generating and activating thoughts and feelings of appreciation, calm, patience, courage, and trust. Interestingly, that pattern becomes a beautiful repeating sine wave, right? It's speeding up and it's slowing down, speeding up and slowing down. Now, we also saw a similar pattern, didn't we, on that EMG graph between a person doing some activity and then that activity stopping. Okay, so here in the heart rate signal, this is balancing our autonomic nervous system. The two sides of the autonomic, I call them, we have the gas pedal and we have the brake pedal. Okay, you have your sympathetic and your parasympathetic. We need the sympathetic, we need that boost of adrenaline, we need, this is good, all right? But it would be like driving down the highway, if you're going 100 miles an hour and that brake pedal doesn't work, that's going to get a little wild out there. So we need the brake pedal to be balancing. And that is exactly what that heart rate variability signal looks like. Isn't that beautiful? Now notice at the bottom how this is impacting your brain function. Incoherence is inhibiting it and impairing your performance 200%. Coherence is facilitating your brain function and promoting optimal performance. So affecting your physical and mental performance. Okay, they're affecting brain centers. And there are several of them that are involved in our foresight, decision-making, social awareness, and ability to self-regulate. But I would like to speak about one in particular this evening that for me is a sweet spot for all of us, especially when we think through the lens of performing. And that is our thalamus. So the thalamus is receiving signals from the heart, and it synchronizes our cortical activity. But the parentheses is what I've added. It's also the sensory input and output place of the brain. So if my sensory output is receiving coherent signals, it's activating what I like to call my inner ear or my third ear. So I'm tuned in, I'm listening presently. Whether it's conversation or in music, I have to hear between the notes, all right? That's also, for me, traveling down what I call the superhighway of my arm, flowing out my fingertips into the piano to create the music. It comes through a singer's voice, goes through a dancer's movement and choreography, and it goes through every single thing we do in our day-to-day lives. Believe me. So I'm going to take us now to one very special place for me, a most favorite place of all. But I think I'd like to pause perhaps the slideshow for a minute, and I'd like to come back to everyone, and then we'll get back into this. So are there any comments or things that people typed in or questions at this point? Okay.
Kathleen, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
And it's, I don't know if I'm going to be even able to, you'll get what I'm saying. So I'm going back to the diamond slide about music affecting kinesiology and stuff like that. So anyone who knows me and my family knows that we're kind of Broadway musical junkies. And I was thinking that one of the things that we love about that experience of being, that sort of communal experience of being in a theater, and just experience the music and the dance, it's an endorphin rush, yes, at the end of it. But because you were talking about emotion, mm-hmm, right, and coherence and incoherence, and I was thinking, most shows have parts that are deeply sad, right? Where the audience is all trying not to cry together. And I'm thinking, pretty much the whole second act of Hamilton. But, so I'm thinking like a song like It's Quiet Uptown, which is so deeply sad, but so beautiful. And it evokes so much emotion. Is sadness, and does sadness contribute to coherence?
Well, it contributes to the whole spectrum. Without sadness or without something, I'll just, being dissonant, there is no appreciation for the resonance and the harmony. Okay. They do exist together. And let's go back to that word, the come from. I have to grieve. I have to feel sad about things. I'm not to wall off those emotions, but sadness can be transformed into joy. Okay. The others that were in the slide on incoherence, frustration, worry, impatience, those are not going to have that same effect.
Right.
And I want to, that's a great question, Judy. Thanks. It's really important that we identify and honor all of our emotions, and it's so important that we then identify it and then consider how it's affecting us. And if I'm experiencing that sadness, of course, I get sad at the times of year when I miss my mother terribly after her passing, or my dad. And yet I can pull gorgeous memories into my heart. But if I get a tear, I let it come. And then it transforms, and I have so much gratitude for what I carry forward as their lineage for me. Mm-hmm. So it shifts. But there's that moment where it goes, that's still there, sure.
You move it right into gratitude. And I think that's what you're saying about the resolution is it just makes it all the more poignant,
Right. To see the value in something. And sometimes when we can't, like in world events right now, and to just view it with neutrality, realizing, as my father used to say, there before the grace of God go you or I. And if we haven't walked in someone's shoes, we don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to condone everything that's going on, but if you don't want to get yourself like this every day or watch the news, too many hours, because that will continue. Oh, it's so unhealthy.
Well, it's interesting. So Jim Eaglesmith just commented that he recalls living off the grid full time in the outdoors, and he was taught to develop third ear listening. I love that term.
Yeah,
third
it is a psychological term.
Yeah. And he said that actually led him with the animal, plant, and mineral kingdoms to led him to HeartMath.
Yeah. Well, Jim and I were in the same training class together.
Yeah.
Hello, Jim. Good to have you here.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah. Okay. So I think
you had raised your hand. Jim, do you want to speak? Or no? Okay, I'm going to unmute.
Oh, I'm going to take us in, and after that, we'll go to the playground. Okay.
Okay. Well, I don't see his hand raised anymore. Okay,
maybe
he'll come back. Okay.
Okay, let's do the next couple of slides. There's not too many left, but
it'll
get you all thinking into where we can go as we open this up for the discussion. So
okay,
here we go. Slideshow. Okay. So please remember the thalamus as I take you into the next part of where we're going. Oh, it's so good. And I'm going to ask you to go through this next exercise with me, bringing in your 3-year-old, 4-year-old, or 5-year-old self. Okay, call them right in now before we even go to the next slide. Let them come in. Feel their energy. Just let it start coming in. And send your heart, you, to your little one or little ones. How many are coming in? Because, well, if I get this to, we are. We're going to the playground. And I want you to call to mind your favorite childhood activity on the playground. Was it the swing? How about the seesaw? Slide? Sandbox? That's a good one. Playing tag? How about the merry-go-round? Or the monkey bars? Or was it something else? Take a moment. Anyone who wants to type anything into the chat or just start to pull that in, let your little one be with you and feel that playground. And the next, I'd like to talk about one of my favorite ones. And a question to y'all, so you're all going to answer the question in the chat, please. We're going to talk about the seesaw. So the question is, how does the person at the top get to the bottom? Judy, do we have anything coming in the chat?
No, everybody's very quiet today.
Okay. Well, come on, guys. That little boy is like, okay, you know, I've had enough time up here. How's he going to get down?
The person at the bottom pushes it up.
That's right. So there has to be the push off from the bottom. Okay, so it's an active release, everybody. We're going to take this into walking and everything else we do. An active release and a natural descent. We've got the gravity on our side. But if that person on the bottom is down there and rooted, that one at the top isn't going to go anywhere. So let's think about that in relation to how you walk. One foot has to release before the other. For me, as I play from finger to finger, I have to have an active release of one to let the other one go down. Everything I do, even here, our conversations with one another, we have to allow this back and forth. Okay? And maintaining the balance point between both sides. Really important. So hop on your favorite play activity. You can close your eyes. And I'm allowing you to take a few moments. Feel your whole self in that favorite activity. Right now, I think I'd be choosing the sandbox. Begin to breathe a little slower and deeper than usual. Focusing that breath on the area of the heart center. And in your heart, I invite you to connect with the heart of your younger one who's so excited to be on the playground, or maybe just beginning to remember. And allow the little one to now go into the imagination and feel the air. What temperature is it there on the playground? You can use your imagination just looking at that slide. What do you smell? What do you see? What do you hear? And how do you feel? Notice where in your body you experience any tightness, heat, or activation. As you bring to mind any of the playground memories, I had this happen with a couple of individuals recently, and they were able to uncover a few things. Before I bring us to the slide for questions, I also mentioned to Judy, I did want to mention that there's an upcoming workshop that follows this on the 15th, in which I will really go into actual tools, techniques. We will be in breakout rooms and we will be working with many of the HeartMath pieces, other pieces that I bring in from this work I'm starting to introduce right now, and other exercises I've learned through all of my different certifications and years of teaching. So the workshop is called Harmonic Resonance, tuning the instrument of our higher self, really our whole self, on May 15th, 10 to 11:30. And what I hope to have you benefit from, or know you will, if you can come, are teachings and practices for creating and maintaining a baseline of your ease, gratitude, joy, and physical, emotional well-being when life blows you off balance. I don't know why that divided itself, but it did. Specific, simple, and effective tools to take charge of your emotions, many thanks to HeartMath, and liberate yourself from anxiety and emotional overwhelm in any moment. Also, to learn about heart-brain coherence and its effect on our physiological system, even beyond what I brought in tonight. And practical tips and tools to reduce your blood pressure, lower heart rate, regain energy, sleep better, and reduce symptoms of depression, anger, and anxiety. It's remarkable, but with 6 weeks of practice with HeartMath techniques, they have found in over thousands upon thousands of patients, there can be a 60% reduction of depression, anger, anxiety, as well as heart arrhythmias. It's worth checking out for sure. Now I'd like to open this up for any questions from anyone.
Let me ask you, thank you, Kathleen. You talked about heart arrhythmias. Does it help with oh gosh, what's the word I'm thinking of? Palpitations, that people have palpitations, right?
Yeah, I had I'm an example of this. After my mom died, well, after she actually was, I had to bring her home with hospice in 2014. She was given a week to live. And after, it was like the same week, my heart went into a wacky rhythm. I ended up at the Cleveland Clinic and I got a cardioversion. And from that point on, they then had me monitor myself. He said, oh, you may never get another one again. I got my second one right after she passed. And, they said, okay, you need an ablation. I will tell you, I work with HeartMath. I did need these because of the level of stress was extraordinary, but I'm on no medication. I'm on no medication at all. Mm-hmm. And I swear by this work. I've been involved with HeartMath tools and techniques since 2007. So yes, it absolutely is a game changer. And we know through a lot of the workshop, I will talk about studies that HeartMath has done. And I will give examples. I worked with patients at the Cleveland Clinic with this when I was invited to on staff. Me, a non-licensed certified trainer, they said, oh, would you come and introduce your biofeedback work to everyone here? And it was remarkable how much chronic pain I could get rid of when people did this. And also they began to learn, because the biofeedback is a window inside. You can't lie. Body won't lie. You may tell yourself a great story, you guys, like, oh, I'm fine. And I had a woman with chronic back pain who I had done the muscle work first, and then I realized there was a lot of stress there, so I got her into the HeartMath. And at that point, she was doing really well. She went, you know what, let me just open the door, because he wants to go into the other room, and he's starting to bark at me. So hold on a second. I have to interrupt myself. You want to go out here? Go on. You go on. Oh, now he's going to stay with me. No, whatever. Oh, there he goes. And so she's like, came in, a week's vacation. She was a doctor. She had decided to leave her practice, and she came in all smiles with a coffee. And after our session, she was going to have a massage, and everything was, oh, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. And I'm monitoring her on the M wave with the sensor on her ear, and I'm seeing the heart rate. the heart rate variability wasn't telling me the same story. So I brought her back. I said, oh, please, let's, focus your attention on the area of your heart, drawing in a feeling of appreciation. Oh, yes, yes, yes. So I stopped the read after 3.5 minutes. It turned the screen around. And I said to her, you're telling me one story, and this is telling me something else. This wasn't even 30 seconds. She took a deep breath and she went, yeah, bottom line, well, that's actually right. You know why? Because I don't believe my back will ever get better and I'm really angry. And I said, well, now we've got some work to do because we got to the heart of the matter. So then the coherence levels on her went way up. She still had a little gait thing going with the legs and low back. And I had another dear colleague at the Cleveland Clinic who does the EMG biofeedback, 16 channels for gait disorders. That's his specialty. So she went and had 3 sessions with him, and she's living a happy, resilient life.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to unmute Jim because he had his hand up earlier. And Jim, if you don't want to talk, just tell me. So if you can unmute yourself if you want to say something.
I don't remember what I was going to say. It was a while ago, but I'm just enjoying seeing you guys again.
And you had said that you're using HeartMath with 3 friends who have AFib?
I do have 3 friends over around 65 years of age, and they've had AFib for 3 years. And 2 of them are doing much better, as I said in the chat, and one got off his meds a couple months ago after 5 months of HeartMath work.
Exactly.
So it's a personal case study that
it's great.
Remember.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you. Well, one of the things I love about HeartMath is that there's data, right?
I am such a data girl. I have a scientist's heart, and that's why that muscle biofeedback is more powerful than when I worked in Cleveland at the clinic. I would have PTs and OTs come to watch me work with the muscle biofeedback. Mm. And they would say to me over and over, my God, we learned so much more through your eyes, because my software was designed for my work, and it has 2 video windows like we're looking at ourselves here in the screen with those 2 windows of the muscle activity above them. So I'm taking cameras and I'm placing them around someone's body so they see themselves from where you can't see yourself. The workshop we did in San Francisco, the young man who was our student was very off base. His left shoulder was way up. So I took the camera and I put it behind him. He could immediately see it. His left shoulder muscle was really raised up, and he began correcting it. So it's the most powerful form of biofeedback I've ever worked with. It is totally neuromuscular re-education. I'm not manipulating the screen. I may go over to someone and I adjust and I comment and I have to become aware of certain things. But seeing is believing. It's not worth 10,000 words. It's worth 100,000 words. Mm-hmm. And it's instant, and people begin to get this ability to shift. Another patient I had at the Cleveland Clinic she had been a runner, and she had some health issues, but she also had an accident. And everyone told this woman she would never run again, nor would she jump again. So they had her come and see me. And I hooked her up and I had her just stand and get to a baseline. And then she began to take a few steps forward, a few steps back. The second session, she was walking around my room and she went, whoa, my body's totally remembering how to do this. Mm. And the lines were just right where I wanted them. She came back the next week with a grin on her face. I said, what? Guess what I did at the gym with my trainer yesterday? I said, what? I jumped 3 times. no pain. 2 weeks later, she began jogging. And the last I had heard, she was training for a marathon.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Kind of miraculous.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is.
So we have a quiet group tonight. I don't have any questions
Yeah.
coming in.
Okay.
Maybe it's the heat. It's warm tonight. So unless anybody has any more questions, I am going to send out. Kathleen, do you have a website that you want to share with us?
Sure. Just drkathleenriley.com.
Okay. I will send that out, and I will also send information about the workshop.
Okay,
Which
great.
it is in a little under 2 weeks.
Good.
So, okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you. Okay.
Anything else? No, I think we're good. Okay.
That's it. So thank you. Thank you for this really excellent presentation.
Oh, it's been my
I love everything you do. And I just love your energy as well. So thank you for being with us, and we will see you all next time. Have a great evening.
Yes. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.